Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alpha Woolen, and I am your host this evening for Inside Scoop. You all know that I always say how excited I am for every single episode, and it's so true, but this episode I'm very excited about. We have with us Supervisor Andrea Bailey, who is the Supervisor for the Potomac District in Prince William County and candidate for Congressional District 7 in Virginia. Supervisor Bailey, thank you so much for joining us.
It is such an honor to be here with you this evening. I was so excited driving down 95. All the roads were clear so that I can get here with you, Alpha.
Yeah. Looking forward to our conversation tonight.
So am I.
So really want to introduce or reintroduce, or for people who already know who you are, share more of your background with our viewers. But first, as I do with every show, I really want people to know about your background. So where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Virginia?
No, not at all. I'm not a Virginian originally, but I am now.
Okay.
Originally from St. Louis, Missouri.
All right.
And
the Arches.
The
Arch.
Arches,
okay.
Absolutely, very good. And I grew up in the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri. And I am an inner city kid, born and raised in a 4-generation home, which is so very important in all that I do. And my mom was a single parent raising me in the inner city. And so I grew up in a place where you would go to places and there might be a lounge where Tina Turner was singing. Wow. Or there may be a club where Dick Gregory was talking about comedy, not politics, but comedy. There may be a place or a play that was going on where Josephine Baker was the star in the play. And so that's an area called the Ville in St. Louis, Missouri. And it's a place that's near and dear to my heart. It's a place where it had culture, it had education, it had all of the elements in a little small area that you could be proud of to talk about, you know, in a world that was vibrant, where children enjoyed being children, you know. So St. Louis, Missouri, where the Arches are, my uncles, as a matter of fact, helped build the Arch. And, you know, long ago, they were a part of the unions, and the unions provided the jobs in that area, and so they helped build the Arch. And so I'm a St. Louis, Missouri baby.
Okay. And so what brought you to Virginia?
Well, I tell you, if it were not for, I want to say that if it were not from my upbringing, my grandmother was very much instrumental in voting. And she would take neighbors to the voting booth to teach them how to vote in a time when she couldn't vote. If it were not for my second grade teacher, public school teacher, that taught me that I was brilliant and that I had something to give back to the world, was not for my grandmother who taught me the basics. May I have please, excuse me, I'm sorry. You know, and I tell you, my background that kind of background laid the foundation for me to be successful in my life. So I really have a corporate background. I worked in corporate America for about 20 years at Xerox, USA Today, EDS, Electronic Data Systems. And I transitioned that into fundraising for non-for-profits and did that for a bit. And then I became a small business owner. So I come to Virginia with that skill set, and I'm very proud of that.
You should be.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up your grandmother. I, too, have a very close relationship with my grandmother. My grandmother, she'll be 98 years young in November.
Yes.
My grandmother raised me, so I understand having that touch of another generation to help give you wisdom.
Yes.
One of the, I pulled some quotes. I always do background research on my guests. And you said, my grandmother was the daughter of sharecroppers, yet she would walk people to the polls when she herself didn't have a voice. I stand on her shoulders. Our democracy is under attack. We need someone who knows our history and will fight to ensure that we never return.
You did rich history. My, thank you.
That's your quote.
Yeah, it is my quote. And it's a quote that I've lived. I'm very proud of that. My grandmother was from Macon, Mississippi, and she was a sharecropper's daughter. And they picked cotton in Macon, Mississippi. And so she didn't have the opportunity to vote when she was in Macon, Mississippi. But when she moved and migrated to the big city, she was able to teach her neighbors that voting is your voice. You absolutely need to vote. And so as a young girl, I would watch her walk citizens, neighbors to the voting booth to make sure that they did vote on voting day. And then they come back to our house and they have a big meal that she had prepared early that morning, and they talk about things that were happening in the community. And so with that, I turned that into, in my political life, I registered 10,212 people in the Northern Virginia region, teaching them that their vote was their voice. And I did that before I became an elected official.
Wow.
I learned that at my grandmother's apron strings.
So with that experience, seeing the work of your grandmother, and then also being a small business owner,
Yes.
and then also doing fundraising for nonprofits.
Yes.
What was the switch? What was the origin story of you saying, you know what, I want to serve the public?
Well, I tell you, I just asked God, what can I do with having all that skill set? What can I do to make sure that I'm giving back? I'm a veteran's wife. My husband served 23 years in the Marine Corps, and we have been able to serve a nation nationally and internationally, and build relationships and friendships and helping people in that vein. And so I just wanted to be able to give that back to my community. And so once I closed down my small business, I decided, what can I do to give back to my community? And so I decided that this was the skill set that I could bring to a political life to make sure that I was lifting up our community in Prince William County. So that was the switch. Just loving people, making sure that I'm giving back. My mantra is, to whom much is given, much is required. And I've been given a lot in my life. And so I feel compelled to give back and to make sure that I'm providing for, I'm listening to those that may not be as fortunate as I or are fortunate as I. What is the need that is held in the community that I can assist to bring forward?
That's right. So you said that you're as I mentioned, I did some research on you. You said that you're not a politician. You're, what is it?
I am an elected official here to serve.
What's the difference?
Well, I believe that just having the title of a politician, sometimes you forget the reason why you're in the seat. And I think it's important that you understand that you've been given an accountability and a responsibility to serve people. And so you have the title of being elected. The people have elected you. That's important. That says that they trust you. They respect you, and you have given them a high degree of respect. And so there's an integrity in that. And so for me, I've been successful in my life, both in my corporate life, my small business life, and being a fundraiser. I've been successful because of the element of integrity and respect and honesty. And so therefore, I believe that my elected role is serving, having servanthood as the foundation of that. And so I understand why I'm in the seat. I'm in the seat for the accountability to the people.
And you've been successful as an elected official. There are a number of accomplishments that you've had, but this is your
second term.
This is your second term.
It is.
Wow.
It is. And I'm very proud of that also, because when I ran for office initially, I lost. And being an only child, my mom and dad said, anything you work hard for, you'll get. Well, I didn't get it just then, because I needed to be pruned. I needed to be developed. I needed to build more relationships in order to do the job better. And so I came back. I lost by 6% in 2015. Came back in 2019, won by 64%.
My goodness.
And in my second...
Lost by 6%, won the next time by 64%.
64%.
Wow.
And then in my second term that I'm serving in now, I won by 65%. So there was a sustainability there with the people. I say that because it says that the people rely upon me. The people trust me with their needs and their dreams, and the ability to serve them at that level is very important.
So why the step up from Prince William County Supervisor to now Congress?
Well, I get that question a lot. And I think that my leadership, the type of leadership that I bring to the table, I'm able to work across the aisles in a bipartisan way. I'm able to go in the room, sit at the table, and have the tough discussions. I've done that in the boardroom and corporate, and I've done that in my elected role. And so I believe that I have a certain level of professional development in my elected role that offers the ability to go to Congress and speak for the people, work for the people, as I'm fighting for the people. That's why I will make the transition to Congress.
Absolutely. And you've accomplished so much. Again, going back to your website, I know that, let's see, prioritizing affordable and workforce housing, and you've passed the county's, Prince William County's first collective bargaining ordinance.
Yes.
You secured $90 million for transportation projects. That's work.
That's work. That's work, and it's dedicated work. And it's work that when you're focused on doing the job, serving and doing the job, then it's rewarding work because people are moving forward. And so one of my greatest accomplishments is when I came back, I ran in 2015 with the platform of economic development, transportation, and education, and homelessness. And what I learned, Alpha, by going into the tent cities with our brothers and sisters that are in need, I learned that there was an element of mental health that needed to be addressed. And so when I ran in 2019, I ran with the same platform, but with mental health as the undergirding of that platform. And so I've been very successful in my first term, bringing together community leaders, 93 stakeholders of community leaders who believe that mental health is a pinnacle of changing our community, with the support of state and federal funding and state and federal support from our elected officials in those roles. I was able to bring back $16 million for the first crisis receiving center in Prince William County for mental health. And that's so important. We'll be able to serve 16 adults, 8 youth in that facility to make sure that we're healing minds, because I believe when we heal minds, we heal the land.
Absolutely. You know, and I think one thing that people kind of should be reminded is that when we put elected officials in place, we need to make sure that they're collaborative, that they can work with other people. So please make sure you don't go anywhere as we continue our conversation with Supervisor Bailey of Prince William County. We'll be right back.
Your time is gonna come. Your time is gonna come. It's up to you to reach out to be that friend who comes along. Your day is gonna come.
When you make a friend, you make a difference.
Your day is gonna come.
Friendship. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing. Wow!
I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
What's it feel like when a woman's having a heart attack? Chest pain, like there's a ton of weight on your chest. Severe shortness of breath. Unexplained nausea. Cold sweats. There's an unusual tiredness and fatigue. There's unfamiliar dizziness or lightheadedness. Unusual pain in your back, neck, jaw, one or both arms, even your upper stomach are signs you're having a heart attack. Don't make excuses. Make the call to 911 immediately. Learn more at womenshealth.gov/heartattack.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination.
Honey, have you seen my cell phone?
But don't just imagine.
My park came to life?
Ooh, a plot twist.
Use STEM to build, create,
She did it.
and change the world.
Who's with me?
I'm more of a 2 feet on the ground kind of guy.
It's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
And thank you so much for joining us back here on Inside Scoop. I'm Alpha Woolen, your host for this evening as we continue our conversation with Supervisor Andrea Bailey, also candidate for Congressional District 7. So when we left, we were talking about some of your accomplishments, and you've done so much work for the county, and how you're going to take that experience and take your collaborative work into Congress to represent CD7. So, but let's dive a bit into your work in the area of mental health and why that's so important.
That is a passion of mine. It is a passion of mine. And because I believe, Alpha, when you heal minds, you heal the land. And people are more vibrant. People are more engaged in the world. And that's very important to me. And so I was very successful. One of my wonderful accomplishments in my first term, and pulling together, first of all, our county board. We had a bipartisan vote for a crisis receiving center to be established in our county. And I did that by going to the community, and I pulled together 93 stakeholders to assure that I was on the right path with mental health provisions. 93 stakeholders. We also talked to our state elected officials, and so we had state support. We also had federal support. And the bipartisan journey even went in that regard. Congressman Connolly and Congressman Whitman were the stakeholders in a bipartisan way that supported this project. And as a result of that, everyone saw the need. Everyone in the community saw the need. I had the support of our public safety employees, our police chief, our fire chief. All of them said, yes, this is needed, because with the policemen, when there's an episode with an individual, they have to go, they have to put, if there's a really hard episode, put handcuffs on the person, take them to the hospital that may or may not have a hospital bed for them to get the services that they need. So a crisis receiving center is critical in a community. And so as a result of that, with all of that support and myself being the champion, we locked arms together and we pulled together $16 million for the first crisis receiving center in Prince William County. That is essential, because when you heal minds, you heal the land. And as a result of that, we had our own Health and Human Services Secretary come, Dr. Littell, to come and look at we had a building that we are retrofitting as we speak, to have him come and take a look at it. He went back and he told our governor. Governor Youngkin came and he saw the facility. Senators Kane and Congressman Connolly came to see the facility. All of that support. And so as a result of that, when the governor passed his bill last week, we have ongoing funding for that facility. And so we will continue to heal minds, because it's very important. In that facility, we'll be addressing and serving 16 adults, 8 youth, and it will grow from there initially, you know, but there'll be wraparound services for housing, for pharmaceutical care, for therapy care, those types of things. We'll even introduce and make sure that we're serving veterans in that facility, which is very high population of veterans in my district and regionally in this area. So that I'm very proud of that, because I think that all of us has the need for mental health care, because that is health care.
It is.
That is health care.
Absolutely.
And so I'm very proud of that. The other thing that I'm proud of is from an economic development standpoint, I was very much instrumental with my colleagues on the dais, making sure that we provided, through the American Rescue Plan, we provided services for our small businesses to be sustainable in our community. Real important for our community to make sure, particularly during COVID, that the level of services that small businesses were providing for the community, that it was continual. So that's real important. I also was very instrumental in making sure that in an area like Prince William County that's very seasoned, you know, I won't say older, seasoned, that we're providing a level of funding to make sure that we're repairing roads, make sure that the transportation in and out of the county was provided, because we have a lot of government workers, we have a lot of corporate workers, and transportation is very important. So in my district, we have the VRE that we've just had a ribbon cutting for last year. And that VRE will provide services going to Washington, D.C., as well as going through the Quantico base down to Richmond. So it's very important that we provide that level of service as well. And the other thing is, when you talk about education, we were very fortunate that we could provide the funding, the level of funding to our public school system to make sure that coming out of COVID and progressing through COVID, that our babies are not losing anything, that the element of public education is sustainable.
So as the young people say, you've got the receipts. You've got receipts. So as I mentioned before, securing the $90 million for transportation projects and securing $11.9 million to build the county's first crisis receiving center, which is what you just said. So I think, what you're saying is that's the work that you're going to take, that you want to take into Congress.
Yes, I think the work that I'm doing now has an essentiality for Congress. I think that there's an opportunity in going to Congress to rebuild legislation, to reform legislation, to build those elements that we've just discussed in that, particularly with mental health. I think with my leadership, the kind of leadership, the bipartisan leadership that I bring to the table, that I can be very successful in having the tough discussions to make sure that all communities are prepared and provided for. That's important. While we're having the tough discussions, and I know that in Congress right now, people are not happy. There's a lot of dysfunctionality that's going on right now. But I think we can handle the dysfunctionality and serve at the same time. So that's why I'm running for Congress.
And so when you're out talking to voters and encouraging people and imploring people to vote for you, to push you into Congress, what are some questions that voters are having? What are some questions or concerns that they're bringing to you?
Well, one of the main questions, because I have a very good, substantial relationship with my community, is why do you want to go to Congress? What sets you apart from everyone else? And I say to them that I have the relationships. I've worked very hard on building the with the federal elected officials and with the state elected officials. I've built those relationships to get the work done in my community. So I have the relationships, and also I have the leadership skills. That's very important, to be able to understand what your leadership is in order to serve. So that's very important. When I knock on the doors, and in this area of District 7, it's an element of urban lifestyle and rural lifestyle. And so my aim is to build a service platform where I am serving across all needs. And what I hear is, we don't have broadband in the rural area. How will you do that? Well, I'll do that because I've worked with Senator Warner to bring broadband to my community. And so I know how to do that. I know how to bring the grants to an area that doesn't have that level of service, to an area that is needing that level of service. I've worked with Senator Kane and Senator Warner when it comes to transportation. I've sat on boards with them. And so I know how to work with them to say, this is an area where transportation needs to be enhanced. And I will continue to do that. I continually have town halls in my community and community meetings to make sure that I'm working with the HOAs in the community. So I'll work with those organizations, rural and urban, to make sure that when I'm sitting in Congress, I'll know the grant funding and the resources and the programming that I can bring to those areas to serve at a higher level.
I think something else that's interesting about your profile is your accessibility. I think when you first ran, you had the chat and choose.
Yes, you remember those.
I do.
Wonderful.
And then now you have is it the Bailey board?
No, it's the Bailey Bugle.
The Bailey Bugle.
That's my newsletter. You've done your homework.
I did.
Oh.
And I think that's really important to voters. Voters want to know, okay, so you knocked on my door. You called me, you texted me,
Yes.
you asked for my vote.
Yes.
You said that you were going to put these policies in place, but now that I have a question, I can't talk to you, I can't email you. So I think it's really, and your social media presence is consistent, and you are constantly on Twitter or X now. So
Yeah.
how is it that you found that communication with your constituents is something is a pillar that you want to build upon?
Well, when I was running in 2015 and in 2019, I realized that there was not constant communication with the district, and we were in a technological, environment, and so I needed to craft and frame an element of communication that I'm talking to everyone. I have a high population of senior citizens in my district. So I started off by mailing my newsletter to them. And I started off by having town halls with them only. And I have the younger generation in my district, those that are young and married, and those that are not married. And so I had to get on social media to make sure that they could connect with me as well, and I can connect with them. And so that is a pathway that with the current congressional servant, Abigail Spanberger, she's very good at robocalls and town halls. I will continue that because it's very important that the accessibility of an elected official is important, and making sure that you build the trust with your community. So that's how I will govern myself accordingly. And I come from a background in my community, where I grew up, and in the veterans community, where we talk. We know who our neighbors are. We know what the needs are, and we serve to what the needs are. We don't just serve ourselves, we serve to what the needs are. And so I will continue to do that because I have a servant's heart, and that's why I'm an elected official here to serve, not a politician.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's one issue that spreads all across Northern Virginia is housing, affordable housing, especially
Yes.
not only in Fairfax
Such a
County,
need.
yes, but also in Prince William County.
Yeah.
Before we move into our next segment, I know that's something that's very important to you as well,
Yes.
making sure that your constituents have access to affordable housing.
Absolutely. I want to focus on workforce housing, and what that is making sure that our teachers and our public service employees, they want to live, work, and play in that area.
Absolutely. And so when we get back from our next break, where I want to dive more deeply into that, because it's very important that we live where we work, and so I'm sure your voters appreciate your work in that area. So please make sure you don't go anywhere. After these PSAs, we're going to continue our conversation with Supervisor Andrea Bailey.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, I'm Josh Temple. You might have seen me on TV where I help folks turn their houses into dream homes. But forget construction. Parenting is the toughest job there is. So when you need help or advice, turn to the parenting experts at Boys Town.
I was afraid of that.
Well, guess it's time to get you fixed.
Your pets will start fooling around sooner than you think.
Go on, get out of here!
Accidental litters lead to millions killed in shelters each year. Help prevent more. Fix at month 4.
Food. It nourishes, brings us together, and adds flavor to life. That's why it's important to wash hands, surfaces, and fresh produce. Keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood separate from ready-to-eat foods like fruits and vegetables. and cook to proper temperatures using a food thermometer. Enjoy, and refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours. For more tips on safely preparing foods, visit homefoodssafety.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Good evening, and thank you so much for coming back and joining us here on Inside Scoop. I am Alpha Woolen, your host for this evening, and we are going to continue our conversation with Supervisor Andrea Bailey. Not only is she the supervisor for the Potomac District in Prince William County, but she's also a candidate for Congressional District 7 here in Virginia. So before we left, we were talking about just a number of your accomplishments, but we segued into affordable housing and how that's an issue in all of Northern Virginia, but yes, you have really taken that on as a flagship issue with your work for Potomac District.
Yes, yes, it's so essential. People want to live, work, and play where they're serving. And so it's important that we can offer an array of housing to our citizens in the community. And so when we say affordable housing, it's not just Section 8. That's a part of it. That is a part of it because it has to be affordable. But it's also workforce housing. You know, so our teachers and our public safety employees our firemen and our police department employees, they can come and they can live in the community where they're actually serving. And they don't have to live outside of the community because they want the accessibility to raise their families in that community. So that's important. Also, what's important is when you talk about union workers, for example, that live in the community, that are building, the construction workers, you know, the pipe fitters, they want to live in the communities also, but it has to be affordable. And so the definition of affordable is very important, but it has a variant way of defining it because of the need of the citizen. Yeah. And so that's very important. In the community where I was raised, there was always an array of housing. I moved from the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri to the suburbs to my grandma wanted me to have a better education. And so we moved from a two-family flat to a two-bedroom house that I own to this day. And so it's very important that those types of provisions governing itself by the type of income is very important, that people, they want to live in Prince William County. They want to live in Fairfax County. So it's important that we make housing available to them according to their salaries and the benefits according to their salaries.
Sure. Yeah. And along those lines, I'm not sure if people of NIMBYism or NIMBY folks understand how that type of perspective creates that disconnection within communities. You said something really important. You said it's vital for people to be able to live where they serve. Yes. And if a teacher lives in the same community as a student, they're more likely to be sensitive to the needs of that student. Absolutely. They can serve them better. If an officer lives in the community or close to the community where they're served, they're more likely to have more compassion or able to more efficiently police that community. So again, just to your point, I'm sure your constituents really appreciate the work that you're doing to make sure it speaks to and it feeds into that community life and atmosphere that you grew up in, and you want to bring that and facilitate that in Northern Virginia. Absolutely. And I have to say the other element when you talk about affordable housing that we sometimes ignore is our senior citizens. They want to live in place and retire in place where they are, or they might just want to live in an apartment or assisted living apartment, but it has to be affordable once they've retired so that they can have a quality of life like everyone else. And so I grew up in a very eclectic and diverse community, and our world is eclectic and diverse. And so we must focus on making sure that we are serving, when it comes to affordable housing, to that diversity. It's very important. And it is NIMBYism sometimes, and so how we get around that is by educating on affordable housing, defining affordable housing, making sure that it is affordable according to the income, and making sure that there are options
as we are building affordable housing. And so that is an education element that we have to address as we are talking to developers. That's an education element that as we're talking to citizens, making sure that there are programs to teach them how to buy housing, what will their pocketbooks afford, that kind of thing. And so when I go to Congress, that's one of the focuses that I'll have as well, making sure that there are programs that will enhance the quality of life for our citizens on a national basis.
Do you hear any concerns from constituents and voters about public safety?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the concern right now is gun violence. That is a vast concern. And I think when you talk about from a federal perspective, we have an opportunity to do legislation reform with gun violence. Our babies are being harmed. Adults are being harmed, but our babies are losing their lives. And so that's very important to me, coming from the inner city. When I came from the inner city, it was safe. Everybody knew everybody, you know, and now it's not so safe. And so we really need to focus on legislation reform with gun violence. That's imperative.
Sure. So actually, one of the, which is a great segue, so one of your supporters is Moms Demand Action.
Absolutely.
They support your work.
Yes, yes. I've been working with them for about 7 years now, and the leadership that we have in that organization is absolutely impeccable. And so the concerns that they have are valid concerns, and they're not ignoring the fact that our youth are losing their lives, and so they're addressing it head on. And that's what I mean by being in the room, having the hard conversations, crafting legislation to protect our youth. It's critical. And so I will continue to be an advocate with Moms Demand, because it's so important that how will I serve them and be a legislator or elected official if I don't understand what their needs are. And it's critical that we listen to them, but let them help us craft the legislation.
Do you find, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Do you find that, you mentioned that there are sections of CD7 that are rural, or rural, suburban, and then you have more of an urban setting in certain sections of CD7.
Yes.
Do you find that their perspectives or their ideas on gun violence are different?
Totally different. With my rural background from Macon, Mississippi, I was raised with guns, but I was raised with guns around my father and my uncles, and they were very responsible with their guns. You know, they began to hunt with their guns, but they would go to areas where hunting was allowed. They cleaned their guns, but they would never let me be around them when they were doing that. And so there's a responsibility that I've seen in my rural areas that I've been engaging with, that they want to keep their guns. They don't want their guns taken away. We're not saying we're going to take your guns away, but there's a responsibility in protecting our youth and our communities as we let you continue to have your guns.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's so important as a legislator, as a policymaker, to understand the different needs, perhaps in one issue, but how it affects different populations.
Absolutely.
The concern for someone living in, in Del City or in a very populous area when it comes to gun violence is going to be completely different for someone living in more of an urban area.
Yes.
So.
And I tell you, Alpha, I think that's where I am very much comfortable, because people are just people. And when we think about it, even in our diversity, people are people, and there are different needs. And so we have to respect that. I think that's an element that when I go to Congress and the dysfunctionality that we need to talk about and we need to address immediately as well.
Share with me, it's story time.
Story time.
So share with me an instance where you had a conversation with a constituent that perhaps changed your mind or changed your approach or affected your approach when it came to a policy or an issue.
Well, I think we have I've had that's a great question. I've had an opportunity to have a hard conversation with one of our citizens where his focus is about accountability to government and making sure that the rules and regulations that we must follow as elected officials are always adhered to. And the opportunity that I had in the conversation with him was, it's the way you go about making us accountable. Having the conversations eye to eye, discussing what am I not accountable to, so that I can respect what your desire is. And I think that when we go to Congress, I think that's where we need to start. You know, it's something to be said to argue and to fight, but when you can come in a room and have a good, truthful conversation with integrity and with respect, I think that's absolutely imperative.
Sure. I know that not only do you have great relationships with your constituents, but you serve on a couple of transportation boards, the VRE board, the PRTC board.
Yes.
So you've done a lot of work.
NVRC.
NVRC.
Yes, and those are, the PRTC board is a local board, our local bus transportation system. VRE, of course, is the train, the Virginia Rail Express. And then NVRC is a regional board. But I believe that the reason why I'm on those boards, not just for transportation, but I believe that my responsibility is broadened. It's a regional responsibility in helping to make decisions in other parts of the area, in the region, not just in Prince William County. And so I'm a part of those boards because I think when we bring our collective needs and thoughts and resources together, it's an element of higher serving regionally to the communities. Yes.
And also you serve on the VRE, you already talked about the VRE coming to Potomac, yes.
I'm on the Council of Government board, which is, that's an exciting board because it's Maryland and Virginia and Washington, D.C. And so, again, regional, but again, different needs, and how do we use our resources, our funding, our programming to address the needs in a broader sense, in a broader region, like Washington, D.C., or even across the river in Maryland.
Right. I think people are just exhausted by, like you mentioned, the partisanship and then just us being so disconnected. So with you having this experience with different areas within our region and the experience of bringing people together, I'm sure that's really refreshing to voters.
Absolutely. I think that the voters get the benefit of how we as elected officials respect each other and respect each other's where we live, you know, where we're serving. So the voters get a level of respect in return to that.
Absolutely. So when we get back, we're going to get into more into Supervisor Bailey's race for CD7. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to miss this last segment. We'll see you in a couple of seconds.
Nice going, Spencer. I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We? Go to the door, ask for the ball back.
Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtleback.
You're so dead. I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go.
See ya, dude. See ya. Remember me and your well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Keep smiling, keep shining.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's a matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about freak nothing very nice. Holy smile. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
And thank you so much for joining us back here on Inside Scoop as we continue our conversation with Supervisor Andrea Bailey and candidate for CD7. So as primaries are coming up,
Yes.
primary day in Virginia is June 18th.
Two more weeks.
2 more weeks. And so specifically for CD7, there's 7 people on the ballot.
Really?
I might be a little bit
Really?
biased, but I think we have the best candidate right here in
Thank
front of us,
you.
just my opinion.
I so agree. Yes.
But what sets you apart? What sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, I get that question a lot. And I'm very proud to say I believe I'm the candidate that will win because I've got the experience. I've really worked very hard at making sure that I have the relationships with those that I'm going to Congress to work with. I've worked I've sat on panels with Senators Warner and Kaine and Abigail Spanberger, who I'll be replacing. I mean, we've done a fentanyl panel together. We've done a healthcare panel together. We've worked in the community together. When she ran for office, I was one of her biggest advocates. And so I believe that I've done the work. I believe that I have the DNA for the profile that can go there and get the work done and be confident about it. I've got the experience from a corporate perspective. I know about budgets. I know about non-for-profits. When the advocates come to your office and they say, here's what we want, and we want to advocate for this. We want to present that. I know how to handle that. And so small businesses. You know, I am a small business owner. I've done the work. I know that I've been in programs that have benefited me to get the revenue that I need to survive and support my family. And so I am so confident that I have the DNA to win this race and to serve this congressional district at a higher level and take the baton from Abigail and keep moving forward.
Yes, and speaking of which, there are other leaders that agree with you. You have a number of endorsements, and I'm just going to list a few of them. You've been endorsed by Senator Louise Lucas, who is a firecracker all by
and
herself.
A great leader. Yes.
Yes, former Governor Ralph Northam.
Yes.
Fellow Supervisor Deborah Frazier,
Yes.
House Minority Leader Don Scott,
Yes.
Delegate Luke Torian.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, you are supported by Moms Demand Action, and then you also recently got the endorsement of Congressman in Missouri.
Oh my God, such a full circle, but a pinnacle moment in my life. Let me just start with the congressional endorsement. And I was endorsed last Sunday by Congressman William Lacey Clay, former Congress member from St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown. And I, as a kid, I would pass out pamphlets for his dad to get him to Congress. And when he won and he became the first congressional chair for the Congressional Black Caucus, it was the pinnacle in our city. I mean, everybody was so excited. So to be endorsed by his son is beyond belief. And I thank you, Congressman Lacey Clay. I love you. And it was a proud moment in my life, as well as our own governor, Ralph Northam. Ralph Northam supported me in 2015 before he even knew my name. Wow. He came as a lieutenant governor and he supported me. And so I supported him in 2017 when he won governor. He has supported me in every race that I've held. And so I'm very proud of that. Ralph is a leader among all leaders, but he cares for people. So his healthcare skill set is exceptional in the state of Virginia. And so I'm very proud of that. And of course, Senator Louise Lucas and Mamie Locke. Senator Lucas is a firecracker. And she's not afraid to go in the room and have the hard conversations. And so I respect that. I've learned from that. And when I asked her to endorse me, she said, of course I'll endorse you. I've endorsed everyone else, why not you? But it's because we have a relationship, as well as my wonderful sorority sister, Mamie Locke, who I love dearly as well. And they are both they have an exceptional financial head, and as they support Luke Torian, who's our appropriations chair, and so I'm really proud of that. But I'm also proud of the local endorsements that I've gotten. Deborah Frazier, supervisor in Stafford, and she is my colleague that serves with me on the PRTC board, as well as my sorority sister. But we have worked very hard regionally to make sure that transportation is done well in our region, and so I'm proud of that. Ralph Smith, who is a councilman in Manassas City. And Ralph is one of our civil rights leaders who suffered from the massive resistance back in the day. And so we understand what it means from a social justice standpoint to serve this community. And my colleague, Tyrone Brown, who's a councilman in Dumfries, which is right in the heart of my district. He and I have served together on NVRC. And so that makes me proud. And then the treasurer of Manassas City, Patricia Ritchie Folks, who I endorsed when she first became treasurer. And so it takes an eclectic amount of endorsements to understand the type of leader that I am. And so those endorsements mean a lot to me, a lot to me. And they are saying to me, go forth and serve this community in a greater way as an elected official.
I think endorsements say, especially if you have, like, these are some really heavy hitters.
They are.
These are people that have done great things within their spaces and within their seats.
Yes.
So I think for them to endorse you, I think leaders see other leaders. I think quality people see other quality people. And so to have these people support you really says, I think that really says a lot about the leader that they see in you. And hopefully voters will see that as well and come alongside them.
Oh, I pray so. Because I think what we all have in common is respect for the people. And I think that's so essential. And I know that when you are presenting yourself for someone to vote, they want to see honesty, they want to see integrity, they want to be respected as they give respect, and they want you to hear them. And that's what I share with those that have endorsed me. That's what I share with the people in this region. And that's the reason why I want to serve them and continue to serve them in a more elevated way.
One of your quotes, again, I did some digging on you. You said, voting is your right, and it was a right stolen from my grandmother that helped spur me in activism. And as you mentioned earlier, you helped, what, over 10,000 people?
Oh, absolutely.
Register to vote.
That was a proud moment as well. Thank you for saying that. Not by myself, but with 15 other, they were voter registration employees that I hired, and 7 of them were young folk. And so they saw the element and the importance of registering people to vote. And together we registered 10,212 people in this region to vote in 2018. That was an important moment in my life because it says that people still understand that that's their God-given right. And we were encouraging them to register because it is their God-given right. And that is something that I learned at my grandma's knee. If you cannot vote, then you don't have a voice. If you neglect to vote, then you don't want to exhort your voice. And so that's very important to me, very important.
So with 1 minute left, tell our viewers why they should vote for you on June 18th.
I thank you for that opportunity. I believe that citizens should vote for me because I am an element of the truth. I respect people. I respect the needs of people. I never knew that I was poor because I was rich in spirit in my community. And so I want the opportunity with the wonderful things that God has given me. I want the opportunity to give back to those that may not have the opportunity to go and ask for what their needs are. That's what I'm good at. That's what I've been successful at. And if given the opportunity to win the seat, I will continue to do so. I'm a veteran's wife. I know what it means in the veterans community not to be able to, as an officer's wife, I'm an officer's wife, but not to be able to go and get the things that you need, but have someone advocate for you. I've done that. And so I want the opportunity in this community where there's a lot of veterans to make sure that they are getting the benefits that they need. I want the opportunity for those that are not veterans to be able to build better schools, to build transportation in the areas where there's no transportation. But most of all, to be able to build, from a technological standpoint, an opportunity to communicate in the rural area and in the suburban area. Given that opportunity to work with the people that I know and I've worked with before, we can all be successful in District 7.
Fantastic. Also, if people want to find out more about you, they can go to AndreaBaileyForCongress.com.
Yes.
And all over social media, you are Andrea for Congress?
I'm Bailey for Congress.
Bailey for
Yes.
Congress, VA. I think it's going to be on the screen.
It's
Make
gonna
sure
be
you
on
look at the screen
Yeah.
and look her up and find out more information. June 18th is primary day here in Virginia, but early voting, I think, is right now.
It's right now.
Yeah, so
it ends June 16th.
It ends June 16th.
Excuse me, June 15th.
Oh, ends June 15th.
Yes.
Okay. So make sure you vote between now and June 15th and on primary day on June 18th. So this is coming up on my favorite part of the show, where folks get to find out more about you.
Oh.
We've been talking about some pretty heavy topics: transportation, education,
Yes.
Gun control. This is an opportunity for folks to find out about you, Andrea. So I'm going to ask you some questions. You can feel free, I think we have a few seconds to add a bit of an anecdote to each question. So, do you prefer pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Waffles, okay.
Soft waffles.
Okay, not crunchy.
Not crunchy.
Okay.
No.
Do you have a favorite cup of, do you like maple syrup, butter?
I like maple syrup, butter, and red velvet waffles.
Now that's decadent.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have a signature dish that you are known for in your family?
Peach cobbler.
Hoo-hoo.
Don't like it.
Oh.
But good at it.
Okay.
Love to make peach cobbler for my family and friends.
Interesting.
Learned that from my grandma.
Okay, peach cobbler. Don't like it, but you do it for your friends and family. That says something. Zoo or aquarium?
Aquarium.
Okay.
It's peaceful.
It is.
And you take your time.
Yeah.
You stop. You don't rush out of the heat to get away from it.
That is a great point. And I'm concerned about monkeys throwing interesting things at you.
Interesting things, not bananas.
Okay. Underwater exploration or space exploration?
Space. I'm afraid of water.
Oh, I just want to explore the space. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Okay, and last question, The Wiz or Mahogany?
The Wiz.
Same.
The Wiz.
Best movie ever.
Come on and get on down the road.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here on Inside Scoop. We will see you next week. Have a wonderful evening.